Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-host, James Higgins. Robbie Cruz will be joining us later in the show, and we have an exciting show planned for you tonight. Some good baseball news this week. We have, of course, the Hall of Fame inductions announced yesterday, along with some other cool signings and potential trade rumors, so we're going to get right into that tonight. But before we start with that, just a reminder to everyone out there listening, thank you for tuning in. We're live every Wednesday night here on WCUA from around 8:10 to 9:10 p.m., and all of our shows are posted on our Twitter and YouTube pages after. If you want to go ahead and follow them, please do. The link for that would be at Nat Pastime Cap. That's at Nat Pastime Cap. Go ahead, give us a follow there for all the show updates and previous shows. And if you want to call in at all tonight, the number for that, 202-319-5106, 202-319-5106. So, with that said, and I know that we will probably have to touch on this again later once our co-host Robbie Cruz joins us, because I'm sure he has some choice words for the man who left him off his ballot. But let's go ahead and talk about the ballot and the Hall of Fame ballot that was revealed yesterday. 2 new members making the trip to Cooperstown this year in July, and that would be, of course, shortstop Derek Jeter and outfielder Larry Walker. James, how are we feeling about the ballot?
Feeling good about it. Congrats to both Derek Jeter and Larry Walker on making the Hall of Fame. Both very well deserved. Derek Jeter very well deserved to make it on the first ballot. And Larry Walker finally getting in his 10th and final year. Very well deserved. He had a great 5-year stretch from 97 to 01, albeit it was in Colorado, but he had monster numbers. And he got in 6 votes over the 75% threshold, and he deserves it. Good for him. Good for Jeter. He one vote short of unanimous. I don't think he deserved to be unanimous. There were a lot of great players that didn't get unanimous ahead of him. Specifically, the guy who I'm thinking of is Ken Griffey Jr. I thought he deserved to be unanimous more than Jeter. So if Griffey wasn't going to get it, I didn't want to see Jeter get it. No disrespect to Jeter. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, especially as a Red Sox fan. I just didn't think he deserved to be unanimous. I definitely think he deserved to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but these are 2 completely different discussions, which I think it's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that he did not deserve to be unanimous, but 1,000% deserved to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I would have voted for him first ballot if I had a vote. Congrats to Jeter and congrats to Larry Walker. It was sad to see that Curt Schilling didn't get in. He fell 5% short of 70%, but he's got 2 years left on the ballot. He made a 10% uptick in vote percentage from last year, and I think next year he's going to get in. I really think next year is going to be his year. One of the greatest postseason pitchers of all time, if not the greatest postseason pitchers of all time. He's the guy who I'd want him out in a do-or-die game. 11-2 in the postseason, 2.23 ERA. He is, I know he has 216 wins. I know people want to knock him for that, but his postseason resume ups him a notch. His K per 9 is phenomenal, and his body of work speaks for itself, and he's a Hall of Famer, and he'll be enshrined in Cooperstown within the next 2 years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of interesting stories coming out of the Hall of Fame ballot, the first of which, of course, the Derek Jeter controversy with him getting 99.7% of the vote. I couldn't agree with James more on that. And again, I know we'll speak about this later because I'm sure Robbie is not exactly pleased with this as a Yankees fan, but I agree with you, James. I think he is without a doubt a first ballot Hall of Famer, but it just would have been laughable if he was 100% unanimous when guys like Griffey weren't, and when guys in the past, think of even ever
like
weren't.
Tom Seaver, Hank Aaron, Nolan
Ryan. I mean, people like this that were not
Walter
100%.
Johnson, Ted Williams, Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle.
Well, those ones were technically all 100%.
I know, but you know what
I know
I'm
what you're saying.
Like,
yes, of course. Yeah. And
like Tom Seaver got 98.2% of the vote. George Brett, Tony Gwynn, Cal Ripken Jr.
Mike
Cal
Schmidt,
Ripken
all
Jr.
these
is the
guys,
best shortstop of all time.
Yes.
Sorry, Derek Jeter fans.
Actually, I'm going to propose to you that it's Honus Wagner, but I think it's one of the two. Yeah. And I know some people will be like, oh, well, that was a different era, but go ahead and look at his stats sometimes. They're absolutely monster. But
if Cal Ripken couldn't get unanimous as a shortstop, Derek Jeter should not have gotten
No, and I agree with that. And I say it time and time again. If you take Derek Jeter's body of work and put it on a team that wasn't as popular and is in the spotlight as he was, he's still a Hall of Famer, but he's not, and he wouldn't even be in the conversation for unanimous. No. Yeah. And also, I know so many people when I've said that who are Yankees fans come out with the argument, well, he was a fantastic defender. You're forgetting about that. He really wasn't.
Defender.
He was a terrible defender who won his gold gloves because of flashy plays.
DRS
Did he really?
Than Derek Jeter, yeah.
See, that's ridiculous.
I know David Ortiz didn't play a lot of defense in the second half of his career, but it's just amazing that David Ortiz over the first half of his career had a higher DRS than Derek Jeter.
I mean, every time you see the Derek Jeter highlights, it's always the play of him leaping into the stands and him doing the flip in Oakland during the ALDS. And yes, there were great flashy plays, and of course the Jeter jump in the hole where he'd get it and spin and throw to first. But minus the flashy plays, you go ahead and look at the defensive WAR. He was not a very good defender at all. So I couldn't agree more with that. Like I said, I'm not going to get too extensive with that because we will definitely be talking about that later. The other story I think is very true is the Schilling, and I think Schilling stands a very good chance to make the Hall of Fame. I think we said on the show here in the past, it is absolutely ridiculous that he's not already in the Hall of Fame.
His body of work speaks for itself, and I think what's keeping him out is political views and tweets and stuff on social media. I understand that character is a part of the Hall of Fame, listed on the ballot in terms of characteristics, but for the fact that it's taken Curt Schilling 8 years to get in, I believe that's a little bit too long, especially for a guy with his postseason resume. I mean, you look at his 2001 postseason with the Arizona Diamondbacks, co-World Series MVP with Randy Johnson. He was masterful against that great Yankees team. You look at 2004, bloody sock, 2004 Game 6 ALCS, one of the best postseason performances of all time, and then Game 2 against the Cardinals with that same injury. 2007 postseason with the Red Sox, 1993 with the Phillies. Time and time again, he came through in the big games when it mattered most, and he's among the greatest postseason pitchers of all time, if not the greatest. And then you look at this, he was a 6-time All-Star from 2000 to 2002. He was runner-up in the Cy Young 3 years in a row to his teammate Randy Johnson. If it wasn't for Randy Johnson, he would have won a Cy Young. So I don't like the argument that Schilling never won a Cy Young. He was more than deserving, but Randy Johnson was just that much better in each of those years. Randy Johnson, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, probably top 5. So that should not be used against Schilling at all. So and as Schilling said on Monday, if he's outside the Hall of Fame with Louis Tiant, he'll be just fine. But I think 2021 is the year for Curt Schilling. I'm a big proponent for Curt Schilling to get in. His body of work speaks for itself, and I hope that Schilling gets in next year because he more than deserves it.
I couldn't agree more. Yes, absolutely. 2 things to note with Curt Schilling here. First, of course, he made a 10% jump this year, which was very significant.
That's a huge jump.
That's huge.
Even though he didn't get in, that's a very big jump. And he's got 2 years left on the ballot to make up 5%. I think he can do that, especially with next year's class being lackluster.
What I was just going to say, the first-timers next year in order of WAR over their career is Mark Burley, Tim Hudson, and Torrey Hunter, then closely followed by Barry Zito. It's not exactly a star-studded class.
I think the only guy that really jumps out is Torrey Hunter.
I think
not going to make it first ballot, but he's only recognizable name that might make some leeway.
I don't think the other 2 are going to come anywhere close to making the Hall of Fame. And if they even do, it's going to be at the end of their time near the 10th or 11th year probably. But no, I think that helps him a lot, and I do think he'll be in the Hall of Fame next year because I know the Hall of Fame, and I know the baseball writers have no control over this, but I know the Hall of Fame, especially Cooperstown, hates it when there's an induction weekend with nobody to induct. Because if you've ever experienced Hall of Fame induction weekend, I had the honor of doing it this past year for Roy Halladay's ceremony. It is unbelievable. The small town of Cooperstown absolutely explodes. They make their entire year's revenue in that one weekend. So
I really want to go up for either Schilling's or David Ortiz's when that eventually happens.
Yeah, no, and here's the other question I did want to mention. Actually, that's funny that you do mention Ortiz. Do we think he's a Hall of Famer? I think he's a Hall of Famer.
I do think he's a Hall of Famer.
Do you think people look past the failed drug test early in his career?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think because his character helps a lot with that.
And I think that failed drug test, I think that's totally different from the Mitchell report with Bonds and Clemens and Sosa and all those guys. I think, I know that in 2003 it was still technically it wasn't illegal, but I think that failed drug test was a thing of the past, and that's what a lot of guys were doing. And I know you can say that in the 90s and 2000s, but what Bonds and Clemens and Sosa and McGuire all did, they took it to another level with their steroid usage. I don't think Ortiz took it to that other level, and I think he played for so long after not on steroids. He accomplished so much. His character is going to help him. 2013 World Series, batted .688, World Series MVP in his final year in his age 39 season. 315, 39 homers, 542 career home runs, I believe. One of the greatest hitters in Red Sox history, and if he's not first ballot, he'll make it at some point.
Yeah, I agree with that also. The last thing I want to touch was
Schilling.
One of my
favorite players of all time.
Oh, yeah. I'd imagine so. Yes. I do, as a side note. I remember watching the 2013 World Series, and by the end, I just remember the Cardinals were not even pitching to him.
I think unless you're a Yankees fan, you can't hate David Ortiz.
No, you can't
hate David Ortiz.
David Ortiz is one of my...
David Ortiz is the man.
Oh,
David
he
Ortiz,
is.
We don't get to talk about him that much on here, but David Ortiz appreciation for about 5 minutes. He's the man.
Yeah,
he's the man. He's one of my childhood heroes.
Yeah.
Still one of my heroes. I'm glad he didn't die when he got shot because that was terrible.
Yes.
But David Ortiz is the man, and he struck fear into so many pitchers. Even when he was 39 years old in his last season or 40 years old in his last season.
Yeah.
I mean, his hand-eye coordination, the amount of fear he struck into opposing pitchers because you knew how big of a threat he was. You knew that if the Red Sox had a chance late in the game, you didn't want to face Ortiz, and more times than not, you're probably going to walk him.
Yeah. No, one of my finest memories of David Ortiz, and it actually comes in that age 40 season. it was at the end of my fantasy draft. People thought he was washed up, thought he was done. There was no way in this last year career he was going to put it up. I drafted him to be my permanent utility guy for the year, and I knew it was a risk because he was DH eligible and nothing else. And the man carried me offensively to a fantasy baseball crown. Unbelievable.
He and Manny Ramirez were probably.
Oh my goodness.
We haven't seen a duo like them since Manny retired, since Manny left the Red Sox in July of 2008, since he got traded. But they've, in the last 30 or 40 years, they've probably been the best and most scariest duo in a lineup.
Oh,
like
it's
a 3-4 combo that I don't think you can get more terrifying than Ramirez and Ortiz in their primes.
Unbelievable.
You can't.
That was, yeah.
And the Red Sox won 2 World Series because of it.
Yes, no, I would agree with that as well. Absolutely insane what they were able to accomplish. The last thing I wanted to touch was Schilling, however. I think I talked to you about this the other day, but what are we thinking about the hat? Do you think he's going to be a Roy Halladay type guy who doesn't go in with a logo?
Well,
or
it's
do you
either
think...
going to be Diamondbacks or Red Sox. We know that.
Yeah, no, I know, but do you think that because of that it's going to be...
Yeah, I could see him going no hat because I definitely think he has allegiance to both teams. I definitely think he endears himself more to Red Sox Nation, though. Even though he was there less of his career, and it was on the back end. I mean, he won 20 games in 2004. He was an All-Star, Bloody Sock World Series, 2007 World Series. Like I think if he chose one, he would probably choose the Red Sox, even though that's where he accomplished least in terms of like personal accolades. But he was one of the main cogs and the reason why they won their first championship in 86 years, and that was the main reason why he wanted to go there. I know a lot of you guys. You guys don't listen to Section 10. It's Red Sox Barstool podcast, but they've had him on 3 or 4 times. And, it was really for him when Arizona traded him in the 2003-2004 offseason, it was really between the Red Sox and the Yankees. And he viewed it as, do I want to go to New York and just be a part of another one, number 27, or do I want to go to Boston and do something special and win the first one in 86 years, win the first one for all these people who have been waiting for it? And that's ultimately what it came down to, because he could have made more money in New York. He said Cashman wrote him a blank check.
Yeah.
But the big deal in Boston was that they couldn't pay him more than Pedro, but they added on an incentive. If they won the World Series, he'd get an extra $2 million. So he got more than Pedro in 2004, but he took less money. He wanted to be a part of something special. He's one of the great pitchers that the Red Sox have had over the last 20 years. Obviously, Pedro being the best, but Schilling was there 4 years. But what he did in 2004 was unbelievable, and to quote him, the greatest Red Sox team ever. Very well could be up there with 2018. That team was definitely the most special team, and the team that everyone's going to have nostalgia for, going to their graves. And, Curt Schilling, he's one of my favorite all-time pitchers. I'm very thankful and grateful for what he did, and I really hope he gets in next year.
I think it'll be...
he was a bulldog on the mound. His teammates wanted him on the mound in big games. They trusted him, and I think that's your ultimate mark as a competitor, is if you perform well in big games, your teammates trust you, your teammates want you to be out there, and that's really all you can ask for.
Yeah, I think he will be getting the call to Cooperstown next year. So hopefully that is the case for Curt Schilling. Looking at some of the other guys real quickly as we wrap up the Hall of Fame here. Bonds and Clemens running out of time. Running out of time.
Left.
It was 61% for Clemens and 60.7% for Bonds. They have 2 years left. And ever since they debuted on the ballot, people have just been very split on whether or not they belong in the Hall of Fame. I think if it's going to happen, it's going to have to be... I think it's going to have to be next year because it's such a weak ballot. Because after that, I'm pretty sure it's a good ballot in 2022.
In 2022, you got Ortiz and A-Rod.
Exactly. Oh, well, A-Rod's another interesting one, though. I don't think he makes it.
I don't think he makes it, but I'm saying in terms of interesting players,
fair.
He'll attract votes, I'm saying.
You think he'll attract votes because people don't want to vote for guys like A-Rod? Is that what you're saying? Like
you mean guys don't want to vote for guys like Bonds and Clemens? You mean?
No. I'm saying since that'll be the final year of Bonds and Clemens, do you think they'll attract more votes?
I don't know. Well, the thing about A-Rod is that he's really cleaned up his public image working for MLB on Fox and ESPN. Like I think people
and
forget
also failed to drug
test.
test.
I think people forget how big of a cheater A-Rod was because he's really cleaned up his public image, and I think he does a pretty good job in the booth. I hated him as a player, but like listening to his announcing, he provides some good analysis, and I really think he's cleaned up his public image in an effort to try to make the Hall of Fame, something that Bonds and Clemens both didn't do.
No, it's very true. There is not a doubt in my mind that Alex Rodriguez knows the game of baseball.
I do think that that's hurting him, and I do think that could be A-Rod's chance to get in. He's not going to get in first ballot, and I will say it is sad that Alex Rodriguez took steroids because he didn't need it. Like he was going to go down as one of the best players of all time with or without steroids. Like he didn't need to take steroids. He was. As Carabas put it on Twitter today, and as a lot of people have said, like back when A-Rod was with the Yankees, he was the best shortstop on the team.
Yeah.
They moved A-Rod to third because of Jeter, but if you're looking at skill, A-Rod was the better shortstop than Jeter. Let's be real.
Yeah.
He was amazing in Seattle and amazing in Texas.
He was a fantastic player. He really was.
for 10 years, if the question was if you could start a player with one team, if you could start a franchise with one team, who would you start with? I think the answer would be Alex Rodriguez. I mean,
without question.
He, I as a Yankee, growing up with him as a Yankee, I never really liked him, and obviously him being a cheater was, I don't really think anyone liked him, but I definitely see the talent that was there and the otherworldly talent that was there, and it's unfortunate that he resorted to steroids, and same with Bonds. Like Bonds was. Pre-steroids, Bonds was still insane.
You could take his entire career before he was implicated of using steroids,
Hall of Famer.
and he'd be a Hall of Famer.
In his first couple years with the Giants,
it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and then he started juicing. But what's crazy about this is that Chris Davis has more 50 home run seasons than Barry Bonds.
That's ridiculous.
Bonds only has one 50 home season with over 50 home runs. It was the year he had 73. Chris Davis has 2.
That's insane.
Or Chris Davis is maybe Chris Davis only has 1, but
I think Chris Davis has 1.
Yeah,
They have the same number.
Yeah, they have the same number, which is I don't think people would think that because it was a lot of like high 40 home run seasons for Bonds.
Yes, there's a lot of 41s, 46s. I remember the year that he had his ridiculous on base percentage was he only had 46.
609.
609.
In 2004.
Yeah, 609.
Yes, I understand Bonds was a cheater. Like it stinks, but like some of these stats are mind boggling.
609 on
a 609 on
percentage.
base percentage, 232 combined walks, whether it was unintentional or intentional. 4 straight MVPs from 01 to 04. In his last season in 07, he had an OPS over 1,000. He had a 162.8 career WAR, which I believe is 4th of all time.
It's ridiculous.
And I don't like any of these steroids users. I don't like Bonds. I don't like Clemens. Like I wouldn't vote for them. But the argument that like, oh, if you take steroids, you're going to be fixed. Francisco Cervelli took steroids. He's a bum.
Yeah. Jesus
Bonds' WAR is like higher than McGuire, Sosa, and all those other guys combined. Like again, I'm not advocating for Bonds. I'm not trying to pump Barry up, but I'm just saying it's ridiculous that like he really did take it to another level.
If you give him some credit though, he of the ones that also you mentioned did try to clean up his image a little bit as well. Because remember, he was the hitting
coach with
the
Marlins
for a little bit, and I don't know if you remember this, but he was very, very friendly when it came to like autographs before games and stuff and photo ops. And I don't know if you know this, but beforehand, like while he was a player, that is not something that he did. He was like known notoriously for being a complete a-hole when it came to autographs.
I was just about to say that. Bonds is not very friendly, and
no.
I mean he's got a big ego, and I personally I don't want to see like I wouldn't vote for Bonds or Clemens. Like that's just me personally. I know Andrew might disagree with me on that. I wouldn't vote for Bonds or Clemens or anyone. But if they make the Hall of Fame, that's up to the voters. If they make the Hall of Fame, they make the Hall of Fame. That's part of the game. That's part of the tainted steroid era in the late 90s and early 2000s, and I don't think that like whether they make the Hall of Fame or not, that era shouldn't be forgotten about because that's what drew people back in when the game was dying.
That's what I'm saying. And you've heard me make this argument on this show multiple times, but there's something with every era that you have to overlook. Like, for example, they had the dead ball era. That was before African Americans were allowed to play. There was era where amphetamines were completely legal and people were using them, and those people are in the Hall of Fame. And honestly, for me, it comes down to the fact that, like James said, I don't want an entire era of baseball ignored, especially an era as important as the steroid era. But second, Bud Selig is in the Hall of Fame. Bud Selig is the man who knew that all of this stuff was happening, who knew very, very well that players, and this is not just the ones we know, hundreds more that we will never know in that report that was not revealed, were using steroids and turned a blind eye to it for the sole reason of the fact that it was helping the game of baseball just be rejuvenated.
Well, speaking of steroids, Trevor Bauer just did an interview with Starting Nine, and he said he thinks about 10% of the game right now is on PEDs.
Really? Mm-hmm. So was the testing just not sporadic enough, or what? Because they're doing some pretty crazy testing. I remember
there are ways to get around it with masking agents and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, of course. That's what happened to Manny Ramirez. Never failed a drug test. He failed the masking agent.
Fail a drug test.
He was using women's birth control. Yeah, that's right.
Same with Robinson Cano.
Yeah, that's right. He also failed for the masking agent. He did not fail for an actual drug, and he also claimed that he was taking it for another reason. But whether or not that's true, it remains to be seen. But no, I just think it's ridiculous because it's an era of baseball. And I don't think we should ignore the best players from that era because, like we just said, there's probably hundreds of players that were also doing it that era that we will never know. So if the competition was doing it, and these guys were doing it too, and they were that much better than them.
And I just do want to make one point clear because I know I'm going to have family that'll be listening to this after. That I don't want them to think that I'm advocating for Bonds or Clemens to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not. I don't think they should be in the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't vote for them. But I'm just going off some of their accomplishments and some of their numbers. They're still mind-boggling and staggering. And both guys would be in the Hall of Fame if they didn't take steroids. Like that's how talented they were. It's unfortunate they took steroids, tainted their careers and tainted the game. That's all I'm trying to say.
That's fair. And for the record, though, if I did have a vote, I know you were not James, but I would vote for both of them. I think they belong in the Hall of Fame.
That's fair. That's fair. It's part
but
of the
I
game.
do think it needs to be denoted somewhere in the Hall of Fame that these players played during an era where it was very heavily assumed that many of them were using steroids.
Yeah.
I just think the Hall of Fame is, people view it as this pristine class of classy individuals, and the fact is there's a lot of terrible people in the Hall of Fame already, so that I don't get that argument, number one, and even though it's supposed to be based on class as well. But and just number two, it's just, to me, the Hall of Fame is the ultimate shrine of baseball history, and when it comes to history, you cannot go back and pick out the parts of it that you like. That's like a 1984 situation here.
It is interesting now that we bring up steroids because there are a decent amount of pitchers that say they'd rather face a guy on roids than a guy who knows the pitchers are coming like the Astros.
Yeah, like the Astros.
By the way, Wall Street Journal reported today that the Astros players and MLB signed a sort of plea deal for an honest testimony in order to avoid punishment.
Do we think that's true? Because
yes,
that's
I
crazy.
think it's true.
Do you do?
Oh, absolutely.
I heard it was just rumors from what I read.
It's true. It's true.
Oh, my goodness.
Because the MLB and the MLBPA struck it early.
Well, you know what was going to happen because we talked about it on the show. The MLB is terrified of the Players Association. They weren't going to let anything happen there and risk a strike. They can't afford that.
No, right, and I think it was good, and I think it was good because A, it cleaned up the game, and B, the players could say anything without fear of any repercussions,
right, of being indicted.
Which I think helps. And I understand that people are upset at Mike Fiers and all that, and look.
Pedro Martinez was very upset.
Pedro Martinez, Jessica Mendoza were both very upset. Now, look, here's my thing. What Mike Fiers did was good because it cleaned up the game and it cleaned up what teams were doing, and now there's a precedent set for this sort of stuff. But I wouldn't have. I didn't like the manner in which Fiers did it, and just, you know, he won a World Series with the team. He, like, whether he knew what was going on or not, I'm sure he did. He benefited from it. You know, like, baseball is a fraternity. And those guys are your brothers, and you went to war with them every day for a lot of those guys for 3 years. He was there from 2015 to 2017. You won a World Series in the end. And now, 3 years later, you're on a different team, and now you're going to say, oh, this is what the Astros are doing. Oh, please, do it in a different way. Like, if you really didn't like that much, do it while you're on the team. You know, like you benefit from it, you get your money from it, you get your World Series ring, you get the parade, you get all that sort of stuff, and then 3 years later, you're like, oh, now I don't like it, so now I'm going to speak up and say something. Like, because I'm sure the Astros are the only team who took it to that extreme, but they're not the only team doing this sort of stuff.
No, not at all.
And so, like baseball's it's a fraternity. You know, you're brothers, and you go to war with those guys every day. And so now you're turning your back on them. Like, you're turning your back on the guys you went to war with every day, and the guys who play defense for you every 5 days when you're on the mound, and who put up run support for you and helped you win a World Series. Like, you did not do much for the 2017 Astros. So, like, if you're gonna do it, be anonymous with it, or just don't be the only guy who comes out publicly 3 years later just because you're pitching on a division rival now.
But at the same time, though, like you said, I think it was important, though, to put a stop to something that could have been happening.
No. I'm not saying I'm upset that he said something. I'm just saying I'm upset in the manner that he did it. I'm upset that he just, 3 years later, now that he's on a division rival, he comes out and he throws, like, the guys who he won a World Series and went to war with under the bus. I wish it was.
So you think he should have done it anonymously?
I wish he did it anonymously, or I wish. Yeah. I wish he did it in a different manner. That's all I'm saying. I'm not upset that he said anything. I'm just because it seems like in that article he's so rah when he came out public, like he's very proud of what. Like, I'm not saying it's not something he shouldn't be proud of, but it's like at the same time, like everyone in baseball, like, it's a fraternity. Everyone, like, it's an unwritten fraternity, and now, like, if you're a teammate with Mike Fiers, like you're not going to want to say anything because now you're not going to want to risk anything happening to you or your teams or whatever. Like I think a lot of people in the game knew what was going on.
Yes, I think so as well.
It's like, I don't know. Like, the biggest thing for me about it is just like betrayal of his brothers, betrayal of his teammates. Again, I'm not upset that he said anything about it. Like,
just wish he would have made.
I wish the betrayal. The betrayal is what really gets at me because like I mean, I played baseball my whole life, and like, you'd go to war for those guys, and you don't want, like, knowing after the fact that, like, someone is just gonna flip on you like that. Like, if you really care that much, try to put a stop to it or say something to MLB while you're there. That's completely different.
Well, and like you said, even if this is a Mike Fiers coming out for it, it's a lot different if it's like
George Springer,
like a George Springer or an Alex Bregman. But this is
yeah.
Mike Fiers. Realistically, this guy didn't do that much to help the Astros win a World Series in 2017.
I don't think he was on the postseason roster because the Red Sox played them in the LDS, and I know
no,
that
I don't think he was
because they had Peacock and they had Morton.
Yeah,
they had.
Yeah, no, I don't think he was on the postseason.
Again, I'm not upset that he said something because I'm glad that it stopped. I just wish he did it anonymously and didn't betray his teammates the way that he betrayed them. That's the only point I want to make, and I think it's a fair point to make.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah,
that like you're brothers with your teammates. You guys, you go to war for each other every day, and I think it's an unwritten rule. You don't just rat people out for random stuff, and don't betray them like that.
Yeah, I think what you said is definitely true. If I'm a teammate of Mike Fiers in the future, not exactly going to be trusting him with a whole lot of stuff there. Before we get into some of the other topics for tonight, a couple of signings took place in the past couple of weeks. The biggest one, of course, being last night, right after the Hall of Fame announcement, when we saw that Marcell Ozuna finally decided to sign a deal here, and that is a one-year, $18 million deal with the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves obviously trying to replace Josh Donaldson's presence in their lineup.
Where's he gonna play now?
That was going to be my very first question to you. Where is he going to play? I have no idea.
Because, I think they're going to shift Austin Riley to third.
Right? Oh, that's right. He can play third base.
He is a third baseman naturally.
So but he played left because of Donaldson.
Yeah, so I think they're going to have Riley. I don't know if they view Riley as highly as they viewed him because he tailed off after that 10-homer month of May.
Oh, he completely fell off.
But he was also hurt. He had an LCL injury, I believe, or MCL. Yeah. So I think I would assume they're going to start the year with kind of a platoon at third with Austin Riley and Juan Camargo, and then in the outfield, you go Enciarte, right?
Enciarte in center. Ozuna in left.
Acuna
in right.
Ozuna in right. Right?
No, I'd put him in left. I want Acuna's arm in right, wouldn't you?
He hasn't played right field in the majors, though.
He hasn't? Has he just played center and left? All right, fine. You can put him in left.
I'd probably go Ozuna in right, Acuna in left, and Enciarte in center. Maybe you could put Enciarte in right. I mean, he's a Gold Glover. He can play anywhere in the outfield.
Yeah, sure. I just think I'd want the range of Enciarte in center field. I mean,
yeah.
That's probably what I would do. But
no, it was a big signing for the Braves. They had thump to the order. People forget how good of a player Ozuna was with the Marlins. He had a rough 18. He had a solid year last year for the Cardinals, though. And so he's going to provide thump to that order.
And you know how these one-year deals work. It seems like players can always refine their little bit of magic there.
Offer next year because so I think that he's going to have a good year because he's surrounded by a lot in that lineup. Acuna, Freeman, Albies. Oh wait, dude, we forgot about Markakis.
We did forget about Markakis. See what I mean?
We're a fourth outfielder. Well, you're not paying Ozuna $18 million a year to play 75 games and be a fourth outfielder and only get 250 at bats.
But didn't they also commit like $5 or $6 million to Markakis? It might have been even more.
$4.
It was $4 million? Okay, but still, that's a lot of money for a fourth outfielder. That's why this signing didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Because now you're right. Yeah, we completely forgot about Markakis. That's 4 guys who could be starting outfielders on pretty much any major league squad that you have on your team now. I mean, I can see Markakis being the odd man out and just being like first guy off the bench kind of situation, but I don't know. That's a lot of money for that. Still,
the thing is, it's not terrible because like guys get hurt, and Enciarte was hurt for a while last year.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If they ever need a bench Acuna for dogging a single again,
or trying to rob a home run and hot dogging it after he thinks he did, but then missing it.
Was that in the division series against Cardinals?
Nope, that was against the Phillies in a game in September.
Oh, that's right.
Scott Kingery inside the park home run. He went over to grab it, thought he got it, started dancing around like an idiot, and then realized the ball was rolling around the warning track.
Oh, that's right. So now this might segue into our next point. Does this take the Braves out of the Nolan Arenado sweepstakes?
There is no Nolan Arenado sweepstakes, and I'll say that again because I don't care.
You don't think after the recent reports he's getting traded?
I don't care how many times Nolan Arenado says
he's getting traded. I think.
I will comment on that in a second. But I don't care how many times I hear that Nolan Arenado's pissed at the Rockies, and I don't care how many times that people bring up the fact that, they need to trade him or Story coming up. It's going to come up, and it's going to happen, and all these teams are interested.
That's a shot at me. I know
yes, I know. I don't care how many people say it.
But the thing is, like a franchise like them, they're not going to be able to pay 2 guys.
No, they're not, and I agree with you.
$30 million a year.
And I agree with you, but I don't think it's happening before the season starts. And I know there's a lot of teams that would be potential suitors, but realistically, I don't think they're going to get a package that they're going to like because they like Nolan Arenado a lot. I mean, they signed him to this 8-year, $260 million.
Would be the Rangers, the Cardinals, and the Braves. Potentially the Padres.
I don't even think it would be the Rangers. And it looks like we have a call here, so we're going to go ahead and take that call real quick. Let me go ahead and grab that. Hello.
I can't hear.
Hello, caller. Seems like we might have some technical difficulties here. Looks like we might have lost him there. That is unfortunate. If whoever's out there, whoever did call, you want to try again, we'll try and get you back there. Looks like we might have lost you through the system here. But to continue on that while we are waiting for that to see if there is a retry there, I think more so it would be the Cardinals or the Braves. Oh, here we go. Yeah, let's try this again here. Another caller? Hello.
Hi, it's Rob Warren. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hi.
Yeah, we're
Hi,
all good
Rob.
now.
How are you?
Hey, sorry about that. I'm sure it was a problem on my end.
No, not at all,
Nothing
Rob. What would you like to
tonight.
talk about?
Well, what I'd like to talk about is Doug DeCinces, who played for the Baltimore Orioles and the California Angels.
Oh, we'd
And
love to
he
hear
ended
about
his
it.
career in Japan.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm teaching finance this semester, and one of the things we learned about was the efficient market hypothesis. And that means that when people are trading stocks, the system works on the hypothesis that everyone has the same amount of information at the same time.
Right.
So nobody has what's called insider information, special information. And because of that, we have confidence in the stock market system. So it's an interesting case where, remember, Doug was just a tremendous baseball player. And I didn't realize it, but he was replaced by Cal Ripken.
Oh, with the Baltimore Orioles. That's right.
That's right. He started his career in Baltimore. He was drafted by the Orioles. And he had a great season. And he was great for the Orioles, but they brought in Cal Ripken. I mean, to be replaced by Cal Ripken, there's no shame in that.
Right. Absolutely not.
Okay. So what happens is Doug has a 17 or 18-year career. Tremendous, right? And I think he's a Southern California guy. And he gets caught up around 2008 or 9 or so with some insider information on Abbott Labs, which is a large firm, and that they were going to acquire another firm. Based on that insider information, I believe he bought shares in the company to be acquired at a lower price than he would normally get if everyone knew that information. So the stock was mispriced. But he had insider information, so he knew he was going to make some money. So he made a little over $1 million on this trade. Well, the Securities and Exchange Commission finds out that's the federal agency that regulates the securities market, and they fine him $2.5 million based on I think he got about 1.3 out of the deal. They fined him 2.5.
So he ended up losing $1.3 million overall.
Exactly.
Right.
I think they pretty much doubled the fine. The fine was pretty much what he doubled what he got out of it.
Right. Okay.
Now, most of us would think that the government got their pound of flesh.
Right.
And now, so in that case, you have when the government charges somebody, you have what's called the general deterrent, which is you want to punish the person enough so that no one else does the crime.
Right.
And then you have the specific deterrent, which is individual to the person.
Right.
Now, the government must have decided that the 2.5 probably was sufficient for the individual deterrent. But then the government charged him with a felony, 13 felonies, for the crime that he settled for civilly.
Right. So how much jail time do you think he should have gotten?
Now, that is an interesting question. So he's charged in 2012. He gets sentenced. He goes to trial in 2017.
Okay.
He ends up getting no jail time, but 8 months of home confinement.
Which, for his crime, seems like nothing.
Yes, but I'm sure he has a pretty good crib too.
Right.
And then he gets to go to work in medical appointment.
Right.
Now, he testified. He had about 6 co-conspirators. He testified against the co-conspirators. And then some of them were acquitted, even though he testified against them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he paid the money.
So he
And
really
that's
got
what they get
roped into
tough.
this, like really involved in this.
It really gets tough. So he gets convicted, but instead of kind of keeping silent, he testifies against the other people for a lower sentence.
Okay. So do you think he should have gotten jail time?
Now, I think he should have gotten something, even if it's just a month.
Oh,
Because
even that
all
short.
people-
Okay.
Right, so all people here really don't get into the nuance.
Right.
What they get into is they hear that he got convicted, got a profit, and then didn't go to jail.
Right. Okay.
But on the other hand, if you don't have his cooperation, you don't have as strong a case as you would on these other people.
No, right, absolutely. So I think you needed his cooperation in order to get all the information out of him that you needed to get. And I think
Right.
that's
And
probably
it was
part of the
only
reason why
time
he
he'd
didn't get
ever
jail
done
time.
this, that we know.
Right, right.
So I think what happens is the government should have either stuck with the fine, and I would have been fine if he just would have gotten the fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when you all of a sudden there's a 2-month trial, he put the government through a 2-month trial. Once you go to trial and lose, that's when the government really goes for jail time.
Right, right. No, that's you're right. That's understood.
Right. But then the government only asked for 1 day in jail. So even the government said don't give him jail time.
Oh wow. Okay. So it was both. So pretty much he wasn't going to get jail time anyway.
Exactly.
That's interesting. Even on 13 felonies, that's just crazy. I think.
The government's asking for jail time.
Yeah.
And the defense is asking for no jail time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
In this case, we all agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So, but one thing I was also thinking of, if I start going on, have you noticed that baseball players in general seem to get in trouble less than other sports figures?
Do you mean less like commit less crimes, or when they do commit crimes, it seems they get less punishment?
Right. Look, you always hear about, say, a basketball player getting in a fight at 2 a.m. at a bar.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't hear about that in baseball players.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that also has to do with like the rigorous 162 game schedule that they can't just go out to the bar, after a game and party till 3 or 4 in the morning. They got a game to play the next day. It's not always the case in basketball or in football or whatever.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, because this
sure.
is kind of a hypothesis. The baseball has a farm system. I know some college players go to play Major League, but am I right in saying that most of the Major League Baseball players come up through the farm system right out of high school?
Yeah, I would say it's probably half.
A good amount are drafted, other than the international guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of guys do get drafted out of high school, but then decide to go to college.
Okay, so here's my hypothesis that when you're my presumption is when you're in the farm teams, A, AA, AAA, you're not treated as superstars.
Oh, absolutely not. No, the treatment down there is not very good, and you don't get paid much at all.
Mm-hmm. So maybe it's because you don't have that star effect.
Right, you kind of have to work for everything
at an early age.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good point. Like, I know like guys in single A and double A, they only get paid around 10 to 20 grand a year, which is not a lot at all. And their travel conditions are terrible. They're taking 10 to 12 hour bus rides, staying in 1 or 2 star motels, if even that.
You even have some of the guys being like Uber drivers on the side to make up money. I mean,
yeah,
it's insane.
So now, another topic is Tebow going to make it to the majors?
I don't think so.
I don't think he has a chance. And if he does, it would be like a publicity kind of thing by the Mets,
It would be a great story. Like,
yes.
I'm all here for Tebow making the majors, but I don't think he's going to make it. I don't think he has like major league talent, and I don't think that it would benefit the Mets that much.
But there are, what I'm thinking of is there's always been players who could do 2 sports. I'm thinking of Danny Ainge. Remember he was in Major League
Danny
Baseball?
Ainge, Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
And then there wasn't John Elway, wasn't he in baseball?
Yes, John Elway was in the minor leagues, yes, before he was the quarterback for Stanford and the Denver Broncos.
Also, I guess technically you could say Russell Wilson as well, played a little bit for the Yankees after he was the Seahawks quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay, but Bo Jackson didn't last that long.
Correct, because his football injury, his hip injury in 91 or 92 with the Raiders.
Right. So these players we just talked about, really their major sport was not baseball.
Correct.
Why did they choose? Do you know of any baseball players who could play in another sport, but then chose baseball?
So are you asking why they chose baseball? Like, as their second sport?
We have 4 cases where the primary sport these people played professionally was not baseball.
Correct.
Are there any cases in reverse?
I don't think there have
so,
been.
yeah.
Because even when you have a guy like Kyler Murray, when he was trying to make his decision, he played baseball as a second sport.
Right.
It was always football for him. I can't think of a case where it's a guy's been baseball first, really. Can you, James?
Drew Henson, actually, quarterback from Michigan when Tom Brady was there, and he was with the New York Yankees.
Okay.
That's the only guy who I can think of. He didn't fare well in either sport professionally, but I think baseball was Drew Henson's first sport, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, so maybe that is a case then. But they're very rare, though, from what I understand, yeah.
And are we seeing any uptick in younger people playing baseball instead of football because of the head injury?
I think yes.
Yes, we're definitely seeing a downturn in youth football, Pop Warner football. But I'm not like I don't know what the percentages are for youth baseball, but I definitely think it's increased in the last 10 to 15 years. And I think Commissioner Manfred has done a very good job with the Little League initiative, especially with the Little League World Series, trying to get people more active, people outside, people involved in the game, all that sort of stuff.
Excellent. Well, hey, I appreciate your time, and I hope you'll have me on again.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing the story. Thanks for your thoughts. We really appreciate having you on.
A little for anybody in your class, and I give this is efficient quiz hypothesis. I'll give a little hint for tomorrow's quiz.
All right.
Good. Get some listeners.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is for everybody's listening.
All right.
We talked in your class about the program, so everybody knows I'm on tonight.
Right. No, absolutely.
So everybody has the same information if they choose to listen.
That's right.
Here's the question.
All right.
What are the 4 major financial statements in a 10K?
Okay.
There you go. You heard it first. Exclusive quiz information here on Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital.
Statement of cash flows, balance sheet, income statement, and I'll know the fourth one tomorrow.
I'll give it to you. Statement of changes and owner's equity.
All right.
There
Perfect.
you go.
All right. Thank you, Professor Warren. Thank you. Have a great night.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. All right, a fantastic call there. Very interesting story to hear about Doug Decente there and his adventures into inside trading. Did not really know a whole lot about that story before. Great to hear that shared here.
Yeah.
And also a good point brought up about something that we really haven't talked about is two sport athletes.
I really like that. Whose primary sport's not baseball.
And he gave a good point. We couldn't barely think of any that's primary sport was baseball.
I might be wrong on Drew Henson. I really might be wrong.
Yeah.
He was the Michigan quarterback when Tom Brady was there. So what Michigan would do actually was very interesting. They'd have Drew Henson play the first quarter, Tom Brady play the second quarter. Whoever played a better quarter would play the second half.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That is funny.
But then eventually Brady won the starting job. But like Drew Henson was the crown jewel because he was a phenomenal athlete, and he was with the Yankees minor league system at the same time as well. So he'd go play baseball in the spring and summer, and then he'd come back for the fall and play football at Michigan.
Yeah.
So, but then he was a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. He did not fare well in the NFL. He didn't fare well in the MLB. I think he only got 9 at bats.
Yeah.
So
right.
he was highly touted by both the New York Yankees and as an NFL prospect. Unfortunately, his career didn't turn out as he would have liked. But he's done some broadcasting work. He shared his story. So.
And if I'm not wrong, didn't Kyler Murray just say something recently again about baseball? I think he just made a comment, didn't he?
I don't remember. I mean, he's sticking with football.
I know he's sticking with football. I mean, he made a comment about something about possibly playing baseball again. I don't really think it would benefit him. As just. Supplementing his
Kyler
football
proved me
career,
wrong because I thought he should have stuck to playing baseball, but he had a phenomenal rookie year with the Arizona Cardinals. Might win NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, so good for Kyler.
If I'm being completely honest, though, I mean, baseball is where the money is. I mean,
right? No, but like that's if you make it big time. Like Kyler, I think is going to make like 30 or 40 million on his guaranteed contract. He's making good money.
No, he's still making good money. And also, I think he's a lot better football player than he was a baseball player. And we are joined now in the booth by the legend himself, Robbie Cruz. Robbie, welcome to the show. We just wrapped up talking a little bit about two sport athletes after a caller came in and talked about that, along with some insider trading and Doug Decente. But I know that the real thing that you want to touch on a little bit tonight before we close out the show here has to do with yesterday's Hall of Fame announcement. Am I right about that?
My apologies, everyone. I was obviously late tonight. But before I get into anything, I would just like to publicly shame the man who decided not to vote for Derek Jeter. I was incredibly disgusted. I was incredibly disappointed. And I was very angry as a Yankee fan. Not because Jeter didn't get in 100%, because I was disgusted with that. I'm not going to lie. More importantly, the man who didn't vote for Derek Jeter voted for Brad Penny and Jose Valverde.
I thought his identity wasn't public.
It's not, but it's heavily speculated, I think, right? It's heavily speculated that it was a troll ballot.
Anyways, if this is true, this man ruined arguably one of the greatest moments in baseball history because he wanted to make a name for himself. But then he chose to stay anonymous. Where's the reasoning in that? Why are you a troll ballot? This is the Baseball Hall of Fame. There's no room for this whatsoever in baseball, and you choose to ruin us Yankee fans and our excitement.
Oh.
I was so excited for this time, and now I have to wear a Mets jersey tomorrow because of you.
Did you make a bet?
Thanks a lot.
Did you make a bet?
I did.
Oh, no.
With who? You?
No, it was not with me. We made another
An-
bet, but I called it
Andrew
off.
backed out of that bet, actually.
I did back out of the bet because I was getting nervous the other night, but I should have stuck with my intuition because I was right. I said over and over again the past year, at least one person will think Derek Jeter is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. I was right. Exactly one person did not think he was.
It's disgusting. It's sickening, and he ruined my night. I was not able to sleep last night for a little bit because it bothered me. I've not been able to focus in class today because of it. Even when I was working, I couldn't focus at time because I got angry. This is something that bothered me very, very much.
I think Derek Jeter and Hannah Davis and their 4-year-old daughter will make it out just fine with 99.7% of the vote.
But that's.
I also
like
think
said,
Yankee fans will make it out
like
just
I
fine with
said,
27
like
rings.
I
Yeah,
said,
you guys also have the only other unanimous Hall of Famer. So, like, if there's one fan base that can handle this quote-unquote blow,
like
it is the New
I
York Yankees
said,
fan base.
Like I said, I wasn't upset that it wasn't unanimous, but I was disgusted. I was disgusted
That it was a troll?
that was probably a troll ballot. Who does this? What baseball writer does this?
The one.
the one who didn't vote for Jeter.
Take this man's votes away. Forever.
To be fair, we don't know yet who it was.
It was definitely a
No,
troll
but-
ballot.
but-
Somebody voted
well,
for Jose
also-
Valverde and Brad Penny in the Hall of Fame.
And
Jose
Adam Dunn,
Valverde
and
has
Adam
no
Dunn.
business
No, but
belonging in
seriously,
the Hall of
also
Fame.
the ballot might not be made public because you can choose whether to go public
You
or
can.
private entry, and the public ones, the rest of them will be released on February 4th. But if he didn't choose for public entry, which I would hope for his safety, he didn't, then it might never be revealed because
So
he can go to
why
his
didn't he
grave with
vote
that
for Derek
secret.
Jeter to be in the Hall of Fame?
You'd have to ask that man the question. I cannot answer your
Is there
questions.
any reasoning as to why he would not be in the Hall of Fame?
Because he has over a negative 100 DRS. I
Yes,
don't know.
yeah. That's my
If
guess.
you're honestly looking for a reason, that might be the only reason.
Other than that,
I still would have voted for him.
Yeah,
even
for
though
the
his-
record, Robbie, I would have voted for Derek Jeter.
But
yeah.
if that, or just to be the one guy who my claim to fame. I don't know.
Well, it's the same thing with Griffey. It was two guys, wasn't it?
Three.
It was three. It was those three guys, and
But
they were
it
known as the
wasn't
three.
one. You didn't have that one guy
No.
who put in Brad Penny and Jose
Okay,
Valverde.
we don't know
Jose
yet.
Valverde had one season where he had 49 saves in one season. Outside of that, he was a very average reliever. Do you remember what that man did with the New York Mets?
Yes, I
do.
do.
You remember?
But also, we don't know if it was
We
this
don't
guy
know.
yet.
Let's condemn him on Wednesday, February 5th, after we get the
Once we get the
results.
public
Yeah,
ballots,
yeah,
and
yeah.
if it's released that this is the guy
like
who voted for them.
what would you say if he voted for Schilling, Bonds, Clemens, and like Omar Vizquel and all guys that were
And just
that-
not Jeter.
Scott Rowland. Oh, Scott
Walker.
Speaking of Scott Rowland could make the Hall of Fame eventually.
Also, we didn't talk about Vizquel. I think he could as well.
Yes, no, but I like we right because we talked about Vizquel before air. That's why.
Yes.
But yes, I think both Omar Vizquel and Scott Rowland had great days yesterday.
Yeah.
30% for Scott Rowland, 52% I believe for Omar Vizquel in his 6th year on the ballot. I think both those guys are on a Hall of Fame track eventually, and good for them because they're both deserving.
Another guy who's very deserving and got around 30-40%, Jeff Kent, I think, is a Hall of Famer.
Jeff Kent has most home runs all time by a second baseman. In that steroid era, he
won an MVP over Bonds, I'm pretty sure.
Right, they were on the same team. He won
Yeah.
4 Silver Sluggers. He was never found of taking steroids in that steroid era. I think he's a Hall of Famer. Billy Wagner got 31% of the vote. I think that's a 9% upgrade. Oh no. Is that 9%?
It's nine. It's about
9%
nine.
from where he was at last year, so
Yep.
I think that's a decent showing for him. I think Scott Rowland made like double the jump, right?
He did.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
big day for Scott Rowland. He's a Hall of Famer.
Vizquel was the biggest, though. He got a 25-point
Yeah, no,
jump.
that's
You know who
huge.
the
That's
biggest
huge.
loser
huge.
yesterday was?
The guy who didn't vote for Jeter?
No. This is legit. The Barry Bonds. That
How was
man
he a
took an
loser?
L yesterday.
He didn't take an L. He increased.
Did he increase it a little bit, like a couple
Very
percent?
little.
like 4 or
not a
5.
good sign.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign.
we were just talking
for
about
you
this-
too, Andrew. I know you've been advocating
No,
for
I know,
Barry Bonds.
but we were just talking about this earlier before you got here. It's really going to help him and Clemens' chances, along as it is going to be with Schilling, that next year it is a very weak ballot. The top 3 guys, and I said this before you got here, on next year's ballot, Tim
Will be-
Hudson, Mark Burley, Torrey Hunter.
The
Here's
top
the part-
3 guys on next year's ballot will be the top three finishers who didn't make it on this year's ballot. Schilling is going to get over 75, and then it depends if how much traction Bonds and Clemens can
Yeah.
make heading into year 10.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, but here's the problem why I don't think Bonds will make it.
Okay.
Why? Okay, so I think we can all agree that Bonds' skill set and numbers prove him to be into the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
But why? Okay, why would baseball writers decide to vote him in next year and not previous years?
Because
Nothing's
next year
changed.
is a weaker ballot. There's no clear-cut favorites.
and maybe more time has given them the chance to get over the steroid stigma or whatever, maybe
Correct.
holding them back.
I
And
think
you have the potential
to
of new
me-
writers entering
to
and old
me,
ones leaving.
These
so.
baseball writers are stubborn and they don't.
Oh,
wanna
that's their
No,
thing.
oh,
They're a
no,
bunch of
exactly.
old
So I
stubborn
don't
guys.
see them changing their opinion. I don't see them changing their opinion.
Well, people have changed their opinion because he started off under 50%, and now he's at.
He started off at like
but I
30,
mean-
didn't he?
He started off at like 38 or 39. Now he's
But
up to.
I mean, it's not actually. He's not going to make. I don't know. We'll see.
Something I would love to mention real quick, Robbie, about the whole Derek Jeter 99.7%.
And then, and I said this earlier on air. About
This is actually a good point. I want to ask you a question. Can you give me a serious answer here?
Yeah.
And can I say one player after you say yours?
Sure. Yeah. So, Derek Jeter got 99.7%. Do you know what percentage Hank Aaron got when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame? Do you know what percentage?
91.
It was 98.7.
98%.
Are you going to sit here and tell me that Derek Jeter's a better player than Hank Aaron? Do you think that's true?
No, but here's the.
So
here's
Hank
the
Aaron
thing.
should have been a first ballot, right?
Yes.
And he should have been first ballot unanimous?
Yeah.
At the time he was inducted, he was the home run king. Right?
Can I say a player now?
Sure. Let's hear your percentage one.
Robbie, is Ted Williams a better player than Derek Jeter? Seriously.
I mean, Ted Williams was playing against mailmen.
Oh my gosh.
No, you did
could,
not.
You could say
Am
like
I wrong?
No. The 1940s and 50s was not mailmen. The 1910s and 20s were mailmen.
Ted Williams played against a priest.
That's
a fact.
yeah.
Okay, one priest, dude. Ted
One
Williams
guy.
is arguably the greatest hitter of all time. Do you want to know what his Hall of Fame percentage was?
Let's
It
hear
was
it.
like 95.
93.4.
So Derek Jeter.
And
No,
he-
let me ask you this.
And Tom Seaver was 98.8.
Yes, and Tom Seaver was 98. That's true.
Tom Seaver's one of the
Here's-
biggest ones for
okay,
me.
No, here's. I know what you guys are going to get at, but here's my argument.
Sure.
I personally believe that guys like Hank Aaron and Ted Williams, they should have been first ballot unanimous Hall of Famers.
Correct.
I believe that. That's why if you're going to bring up, oh my gosh, did Hank Aaron have a better career than Derek Jeter? It's useless because I think that Hank Aaron belonged in the Hall of Fame unanimously.
Can I ask
I'm
you
just saying
another
that
question?
Derek Jeter
A serious
also
question,
did.
right?
It was one-
Hank Aaron. I'm going to take him right now. I'm going to take Hank Aaron from the Milwaukee Braves and from all the other teams he was on, and I'm going to put him on his entire career on the Yankees. Is he unanimous? Be honest. No?
No.
Okay, now, can I ask a better question?
Go ahead.
What if you put Williams on the Yankees instead of DiMaggio? Come on, don't tell me he's not unanimous. Ted Williams
No.
didn't win an MVP in a year he won a Triple Crown because of DiMaggio and the New York media bias.
He's
Andrew,
not a
can you-
first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer.
Can
And
you
I
answer
can
my
tell
question?
you
If Ted
why.
Williams was a Yankee, is he unanimous?
If Ted Williams is a Yankee, he's the first unanimous Hall of Famer.
yes, by a long shot.
By a long
You
shot.
know what? You can make the argument no because, as we've seen, there are trolls out there.
Robbie, if Derek Jeter was a Ray, would he be a unanimous Hall of Famer?
No.
That's exactly our point.
No,
That's
I
my
understand
point.
your point. But
Well,
okay,
does he win 5 plus whatever Gold Gloves if he's on the Rays and the media's covering his crazy jump throw every single night? No,
Derek
he
Jeter
doesn't.
made some terrific plays.
He
Give him
also had a
break.
negative defensive WAR. How many times do we have to say
Nobody
this?
David
cares.
Ortiz had a higher defensive war
Or
DRS
He had a
than,
higher DRS. That's actually
than
true,
Derek
by the
Jeter.
way. We
So
looked
you're
that
telling
up.
me
Seriously, that's
you're
true on
telling me-
Fangraphs.
You're telling me that David Ortiz is
Yes.
better defensively than Derek
No, but my
Jeter?
point is that like Derek Jeter really was that bad
He
defensively.
was bad, dude. He was so bad, okay? Look, and again, we said this beginning of the show, don't get the wrong idea. Derek Jeter's a Hall of Famer. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I have
Just not a
tremendous
unanimous Hall of
respect
Famer.
for him, but he's not a unanimous Hall of Famer.
No, my argument is there's that one guy.
I think
In
he's
fact,
just mad at the guy.
You're just
Yeah,
mad
I
at the
think
guy.
he's just mad at the
Yeah,
guy.
you're mad at the guy. Yes, that's
So
fair.
whose Mets jersey are you wearing tomorrow? Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil,
David
Jacob
Wright.
DeGrom?
Oh, it's David Wright.
Wright.
Okay, that's a good one. I can at least respect that. At least it's not an
All right,
Edwin Diaz one.
So I have a question.
yes, let's hear it.
Who's better defensively,
Okay.
Ivan Rodriguez or Omar Vizquel? I know different positions.
It's probably okay. Well, no, catcher isn't it rated really differently? I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
it's,
catcher's the one position that's graded differently from like every other position because you don't get an error for a passed ball. It's a passed ball. It's its own stat.
right. So I'm gonna say it's probably Ivan. It's probably Ivan. Right?
I think by the stats, it's probably Ivan Rodriguez.
Yeah. Is it?
by 0.1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But my argument
What's your
is,
point, though?
My point is that defensive WAR isn't always what you should look at immediately when you're evaluating
No,
somebody's
no,
defensive
but like
abilities.
when his DRS was so low in the negatives,
and for
like,
him
I
to win
think
so many
that's
Gold
what
Gloves
the
with
staggering
that.
thing
yeah,
was.
like there were multiple years he won Gold Gloves where he was one of the worst defenders in the league statistically speaking. That's what I'm saying.
Were they
Again,
keeping track of defensive WAR in 2002?
no, they weren't. But now that we
Exactly,
know
so
back
why-
and know that, it proves that the Gold Glove used to be an award that was just awarded to the flashiest guy out there.
It's kind of like you can look at WAR and look at guys like Ted Williams and Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio, like they weren't keeping track of WAR back then, but now you can look at it and see how their careers play out to guys like Mike Trout and Bryce Harper and Mookie Betts and Giancarlo Stanton and all those kind of guys, like all the modern day players.
Andrew,
yeah.
Yes.
is WAR a useful stat?
Is WAR a useful
Very
stat?
useful
I think it's
stat.
very useful. It has its downfalls.
Bryce
but
Harper's WAR was 0.9 before he joined the Phillies.
yeah, and he had a 4-5 win
No,
season
no,
this
no.
year.
No,
His WAR was not 0.9 before he joined the Phillies. It was 26.6.
No,
Total.
I'm saying for the season.
He's saying in 2018.
my
Yeah, that's because he had a
2018.
really bad first half.
Okay, but here's the thing. When Bryce Harper was a free agent, you were always saying, "Oh, WAR's a useless stat."
Because
WAR's a
I
useless
was
stat.
no, that did not happen. I was saying it was useless comparing for the 1 year. You can't look at Bryce Harper and not only what he's done in the past, which by the way, a fantastic career, including a 10-win season, but you have to look towards the future. And I said this multiple times, considering he was a 26-year-old superstar before the prime of his career, available on the market. And I was saying, if you're looking at the WAR from last season and last season only, you'd just be asinine to do that because he's a superstar, and that doesn't prove that. And didn't I just say when you asked me WAR? Yes, WAR has its downsides. I agree with that. But still, it's one of the most useful ways for evaluating a player in 2020. I mean, I think it's as simple as that.
So is David Ortiz a Hall of Famer? James?
We actually just had this discussion.
have
We
this
both
discussion.
agree that he is, yeah.
Okay. David Ortiz could not field a ground ball, though.
But he didn't have
couldn't
to.
play defense.
That wasn't his
hitter.
job. He was a DH.
Edgar
But
Mar-
you guys are criticizing Derek
Edgar
Jeter's
Martinez,
defensive inability.
because he was a shortstop. That's a defensive-heavy position.
So
Are you going to
so-
criticize Edgar?
if Derek Jeter,
Oh, Edgar. Yeah, what about Edgar?
Are you going to
Derek-
criticize Edgar though?
if Derek Jeter
Yeah.
was a DH, is
Uh-huh.
he a unanimous Hall of Famer?
Is he a D? If he's a DH?
If he's a
If
no,
he's a
because he wouldn't
DH.
have the home. He wouldn't have the
No.
home runs and the RBI.
He
and
didn't
all
even
that
know
Why
where
stuff.
it
don't
was.
people bring up the home runs and the RBIs?
Because
when-
shortstop is completely different position from DH. As a shortstop, you're not expected to be a 540 home run hitter and a guy who drives in, has over, X amount of hits and drives in over X amount of RBIs. Whatever the standards that you set. But there's a presence that you have to be a leader up the middle. You have to be a very strong defender. You set the table at the top or bottom of the order. You do stuff like that. Unless you're a guy like Troy Tulowitzki in his prime who hit middle of the order. You're normally not going to do that. So I think it's different offensive precedents. And David Ortiz had over 500 career home runs. He had over 2,000 hits. Had over 1,000 career RBIs. He did a lot of things, and he revolutionized the designated hitter position. And that's ultimately, I think, how Edgar Martinez got in, because he was one of the pioneers too.
Yes.
And DH, yeah.
So, any other comments on the Hall of Fame thing? We're ready to put that behind us. Because I do have some breaking news here from Ken Rosenthal retweeted from Patrick
Is
Saunders.
Antonio Brown just got arrested?
No, did that just happen?
He has an arrest warrant. Antonio
my
Brown
God.
has an arrest warrant out for him.
No, it is about an official statement from Nolan Arenado to Rockies fans. You guys see this? Mind if I read this out here?
Go ahead. I just
All right.
saw it, but yeah.
There's been a lot of stuff going on that nobody knows about, and I was reacting to what was said and what was out of character for me because I'm very private with my life. The Rockies have been talking to my agent and me this offseason about a number of things that will remain between us. I will not speak on these things anymore. I'm getting ready for the upcoming season. I'm working hard to get better for my teammates and my fans.
AKA, enjoy me until the July 31st trade deadline, where I will not be donning Rockies pinstripes anymore.
Oh my goodness, that is a very passive-aggressive statement towards the front office if I ever saw one. I'm
Yes.
getting ready for my fans and my teammates.
And I'm getting ready for my new team.
And I'm getting ready for my new team as well.
Well, I will say teams who trade for Arenado have to be cautious of A,
Opt-out.
trying to simultaneously renegotiate the opt-out, or B, not trading, not giving up too much, considering he only has a year and a half to 2 years left, depending on when they trade for him, until his 2021 opt-out, when the new CBA will reset everything. Smart by Nolan to have that opt-out put in there.
Oh, it was very smart. The amount of leveraging he has now with that ability to just opt out and get even more money. I got to say, though, I still don't think he's getting traded before the season starts here, but let's take a little bit of poll here. Yes or no, is Nolan Arenado wearing a different team's colors on August 1st?
Yes.
Robbie?
No.
No. Why not?
I don't see...
Do you not see a team putting together the right package?
Here's my problem. Why would you wait until the deadline to trade for Nolan Arenado?
Because why
wouldn't
if they
you
don't
have
trade
just done
before.
it- why wouldn't you have done it in the offseason?
So somebody gets hurt, somebody doesn't perform up to expectations.
The Rockies are going to get better offers in the offseason than they would midseason.
So you think they're going to wait until the end of this season?
I think that they'll wait until the end of the season.
Why
Okay.
would they wait till the end of the season if they had one less year?
Because
Why wouldn't they just do
the
it at the
Arenado trade
No,
rumors
but
weren't
the thing
going
is,
around last
I do think at the deadline teams will get desperate if somebody gets hurt.
That's my
or
thing.
guys
There's always desperation at
underperform,
the deadline, yeah.
or they just want that final piece, like to go win a
But
World
when
Series.
is somebody of Nolan Arenado's talent gotten traded at the deadline?
Troy Tulowitzki and David
Carlos
Price when they
Beltran.
both
We're
went
not
to
on
Toronto.
Arenado's level, though.
Troy Tulowitzki in his prime in Colorado was very, very good.
When
and
Tulowitzki got traded from Colorado, he was
2015
injured.
No, but in 2015, that second half, he made the All-Star team in 15, and then the second half he had with Toronto was
he
otherworldly.
okay, but he wasn't like everybody agreed unanimously he was the best at his position in baseball.
In 2015, probably not.
Probably not. No,
No.
he was up there. in
everybody-
terms of-
of course, yeah.
Everybody agrees that Nolan Arenado is by far the best third baseman in baseball. And it's not even close.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I don't
got
know if
a
it's
lot of-
okay. I don't know if
I
it's
wouldn't
not
say
close.
it's not close. I would not say it's not
close. You
close.
still have
Okay.
Chapman and Rendon, I think, are in the conversation.
Okay, but
Bregman, Bryant,
And
you have a loaded position.
People
at third
think
base.
okay, but
Michael Frank.
no, but okay, people would agree that
Devers.
Arenado's the best at his position, though.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
so-
think that's a consensus among most people.
Yes, and to me, the Rockies are going to get more value in the offseason than they would midseason.
Well, this offseason, yes, but I think if you wait, you risk the opt-out and teams only having – because I think what's going to play a big factor in this is that if Betts gets traded, like he only has 1 year left, so I think they would look at the return that the Red Sox would get for Betts if he got traded and see whether they could get more at the deadline or not. I think that would play into it.
See, I don't see Betts getting traded at the deadline either.
I don't see Betts getting traded at all, but my point is they would see what return the Red Sox got for Betts with 1 year remaining next offseason if they don't trade Arenado, and they would have to compare it at the deadline to see if they waited if they were to get more.
I'm telling you, somebody would give up a lot to get Nolan Arenado in the offseason. For a full season of Arenado.
But
remember how much the Cardinals gave up to get Paul Goldschmidt? They didn't have
not
Paul
as
Goldschmidt
much
under
as we
contract.
thought that they thought.
They only gave up
Yeah, they didn't
Kelly
give up-
Weaver and someone else, right?
Yeah, they didn't
Kelly
give up.
Weaver, pretty good though.
It didn't look that good last
Not for the package of Goldschmidt. Like my point is
No,
that
I know what
if
you
the
mean.
Red Sox gets sold short on Betts, I think the Rockies would look at it at the deadline and say let's trade him now while we can get more for him. I don't think the Red Sox are trading Betts, but that's just I think what the Rockies would look at and use as a benchmark.
I don't know. To me, I just don't see Nolan Arenado getting traded at the deadline. I don't see one of the best players in baseball getting traded at the deadline. I think he's a top 5 player in baseball. I mean, it's almost a gimme, and I don't. I haven't seen a top 5 player in baseball get traded at the deadline off the top of my head in a while.
Machado, 2018.
Machado,
I don't
yeah.
think he was a top 5 player.
He had a
20,
pretty-
in 2018, I think
He was pretty good. All right, putting a pin in Nolan Arenado stuff. 3 things I wanted to touch on here in the last 4 minutes. The first one we didn't talk about, the Mets' new manager, Luis Rojas. I think it was a pretty solid hire. I think a lot of people consider him, what I read in the industry, a kind of like an up and coming guy.
Yeah, Pete Alonso
Yeah, I like him.
Pete Alonso had him for 2 years in the minors.
Yes.
He's very excited.
Yeah, so that's cool for the Mets there. Touching on the Astros candidate list, according to John Heyman, the list is pretty extensive.
Dusty Baker has a real shot.
Baker, Showalter, Gibbons were the top 3, along with Eduardo Perez, Jeff Bannister, and Will Venable was the other one.
Yeah, he's with the Cubs right now.
He is. He's a bench coach for the Cubs. It'd be interesting to see what happens there. The last 2, Alex Gordon goes back to the Royals today. That's good. 1 year, $4 million deal. That's cool for him. And the last thing I want to touch on quickly, and something that really saddens me, and I'm sure, James, you're going to have a little bit of information more on this than I know, but I heard that Dustin Pedroia suffered a significant setback again, and it just seems like it just keeps coming and coming for this guy with the injuries. It's a real shame.
Not a lot of information is out there about it, so I don't know how much more I'll have than you. But yes, yesterday Dustin Pedroia suffered another setback when rehabbing his knee injury. He's only played in 9 games since the start of 2018. The guy who's the heart and soul of the Red Sox, the unofficial captain, the team leader. He has one hell of a resume: 07 AL Rookie of the Year, 08 AL MVP, 4-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glover, 3-time World Series champion, Silver Slugger in 08. He's done everything and more for the Red Sox, for baseball. I think if you were growing up, when we were growing up as kids, Dustin Pedroia was a guy that you looked at and the guy that you wanted to play the game like. He had his uniform dirty. After like the 3rd inning of every game, he was always diving all over the place. He made so many great defensive plays. 2016 wasn't that long ago when he hit 318, which was tied for second in the league with Mookie, only to Altuve, when he had over 200 hits. At that point in his career, like he's my favorite player of all time, and he's obviously my favorite player growing up. I really thought he had an outside shot at the Hall of Fame if he aged well. Obviously, the Machado slide in Baltimore changed that in 2017. It's sad that this is how his career is ending, and it's sad that his body is giving out like this because he played the game so hard for so many years. Whatever avenue Pedroia decides to take, I fully support him in it. I understand why people are calling for him to retire, because he hasn't really done anything in the last 2 years, and he hasn't provided anything on the field to the team. But He still has $25 million guaranteed. This has been his dream his whole life. I'm sure he doesn't want it to end like this. I'm sure he wants to go out honorably. And so, whatever he does, I fully support him. I hope that if he's talking to his family, his agent right now, and with options. And I just hope that whatever he decides is best for him. And I hope if he decides not to play, the Red Sox add him to the coaching staff immediately, because he's helped so many pitchers stop tipping pitches, or he helped Eduardo Rodriguez with his changeup grip. He'd be a great coach, and I hope he's added to the staff, and I hope he gets the money that's due to him.
Yeah, very sad.
And he took a far below market value extension to sign an extension with the Red Sox instead of hitting the open market. He's everything that you want in a baseball player, and I wish him the best.
Yeah, very
David
true
Wright
about
2.0? Like last season?
Very well could be, yes.
Yeah.
It is a shame to see guys like that, right? Yeah. And Pedroia there. Hopefully it gets better there. We'll leave you with this. How are we thinking? I think this time next week we're going to have an Astros manager. Who's your pick? Robbie, James, let's hear it real quick.
Dusty Baker.
I have Dusty Baker as well. That's a unanimous vote here for Dusty Baker for the next manager of the Houston Astros.
Meanwhile, the Red Sox sit on their thumbs and do nothing.
That is also correct. Mets have theirs. Looks like the Astros have them soon. We haven't heard anything about the Red Sox yet. So we'll see next week. Hopefully we're talking about some new managers here. Thank you again for Rob tonight for calling in. Fantastic story about Doug DeCente, and also raising some great points about two-sport athletes. Thank you again for that. Reminder to everyone listening, we'll be live again next week from around 8:10 to 9:10 p.m. here on WCUA. Catch our shows posted on our Twitter and subsequently on our YouTube. That's at @PastimeCap. And with that said, thank you very much for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Peace out.